Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Home to Self podcast. I'm here with my husband, Austin, and our dog, Lufasa. Doesn't he look like a little lion? If you're watching on camera. No, his name is Louie, and he is a wiener dog. And he's here with us to help us as we record this episode. How you doing?
I'm good. A little tired, long week, but I feel good.
Yeah, we wanted to come on and record another episode together. We've done a few of these in the past, and it's been a little while. And a lot has shifted for us recently in the past month or so in terms of our relationship. And, we've been married for 7 years and we've been together for 10. And we've just learned so much throughout our relationship and our time together. And it is something that we want to continue to share with the world, to share with my listeners here on the podcast and our friends in real life and just everyone we come across, because there's so much wisdom that comes through just lived experience. And although we are still in many ways babies on this forever journey of learning about conscious relationships, there is so much that we are constantly learning and implementing that I think could also really benefit others. Relationships really are at the core of our lives, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to others, our relationship to life itself, to money, to all these things. It's all about how we relate, right? And so this topic is just one that is so big, but also so important. And so we thought we'd come on to share a little bit about where we've been at, what we've been learning, and how it's impacted our relationship over the past few months.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. What I think the first place to start would probably be the Costa Rica trip.
Yeah. I mean, even before then, for me at least.
Yeah.
So I'll just start there. We went to Costa Rica in December. I went a couple weeks before Austin, and for those of you who don't know, if you're new here, I grew up in Costa Rica, and so that's where my family still lives, and that's where I go back to every year to visit my family. And I usually go in December. That's when all my friends are home. That's, around the holiday time. And I always find myself right before that trip, towards the end of the year, just really craving the slowness and the nurturance of being in that land and on the beach and just slowing down. It really brings me back into my feminine. And that is something that I look forward to. And so I always catch myself right before my trip just feeling so burnt out and overwhelmed and tired and just, ready for the vacation. And yeah, it's usually when I've been too much in like masculine, overdrive, structure, rigid, just like trying to do. And then once I get there and I'm able to slow down and sit by the water and be in the warmth and in the sunshine and eat the nourishing food, it's just like the immediate like difference that I feel in my body is like night and day. It just slows me down so much and allows me to really come back into like my senses and feel the world around me. And yeah, I catch myself dancing more and feeling myself more in many ways, and just being more flowy and connected to nature and connected to myself. And so that is something that I definitely was like, okay, I'm so looking forward to this. And so when I got back, I was there for a week and a half before you joined me. And that was great. It worked out perfectly because I got to hang out with my family, but I also got to just spend some time alone to really recalibrate and come back into that energy that I was craving. And during the time that I was there, I also was reading a book that has massively impacted my life and our relationship. It's called Queen's Code, and it's by an author named Alison Armstrong. And I'm going to preface this by saying that this book is not for everyone. I think you have to be ready for the information in order for it to really make a difference in your life. But it really is about masculine and feminine dynamics. And this author spent 20 years or so studying men and trying to understand how men work in terms of their brains and why they do the things they do, how they function, because believe it or not, men operate very differently than women. And that I think is at the root of so many of our conflicts and misunderstandings and miscommunications between men and women. And yeah, it was really profound to be back in my feminine energy and reading this book every day. Just, I was just consuming it so quickly. And just things were shifting in my mind in the way that I was, you know, thinking about you and our relationship and how I wanted to show up in order to bring your king archetype forward, in order to really honor you, and in order to because it's this like positive feedback loop, right? If I honor you and I know how to connect to you and communicate with you in a way that is effective for you and how you see the world and how you operate, and I hold you in the light of like the man that you can be, the man that you are, then vice versa, you're going to treat me in a way that is more, honorable and respectful and really trying to help me rise. And so it is this beautiful symbiotic relationship. Um, so I'll pause there. But how did you feel, I guess, when you got to Costa Rica, and even before that, taking some time for yourself? I don't know if you want to include any of that.
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, it's important for anyone who's in a long term relationship to find ways to create space for yourself. I think that we get lost in the monotony in the day to day, and we get very consumed with the life that we've created together, and then it becomes this system where we're constantly having to, like, we're following the same routines every single day, and it just gets stagnant. And then when that happens and we're spending all of our time together, we're also decreasing the polarity between us. So that energetic magnetic attraction starts to fade. Like if you have two magnets together, they will depolarize over time. And so just creating a little bit of space, like we did this last year too, but like when you go to Costa Rica, it's like, hey, go be with your family, go be with your friends, go be with yourself. Like, I'm going to take a step back, I'm going to work on me for a little bit, I'm going to have the house to myself, I'm going to spend time doing the things that I don't even know what it is that I want to do, but it's me, and I just get to be uninfluenced by our day-to-day routines and responsibilities that we participate in this like co-created relationship doing. So I did spend that week and a half just being a little bit more, just on my own flow, and I didn't clean up after myself, and I, was kind of would just do the things that I knew I needed to do, but would do them on my own time, and that felt good, just to kind of be in my own awareness. And learning more about you, it makes sense that like I would need to pick up these things sooner rather than later because of the distraction that it causes. We can get to that later. But yeah, I think creating the space for myself, and creating and allowing the space for you to have your space as well was really important for like repolarizing so that we could step into our individuality. And then when I reached you after a week and a half or 2 weeks of being a little bit disconnected on purpose, but like, still there for each other, but just not quite in each other's fields. And then I showed up, and like it was like immediately like that love had been like rediscovered, like rekindled. The flame, was burning a lot brighter, and I noticed it immediately as soon as I showed up. And I noticed that you'd also been doing your own work too, and so it was just cool to kind of take that space and then come back together, and then get to rejoin for this like next leg of our journey. And this trip for the both of us it was really awesome. Like she had gotten her family and friend time before I'd gotten there. And then we basically got to stay in like a really beautiful condo by the beach, alone together for several days, for about a week. And then we got to go to travel, 2 days together. We had a car. So we were able to kind of have a lot of mobility and freedom. And it was just a reminder of like what is true between us. And when you get stuck, especially in like a 10-year relationship, things, they just tend to get not boring, but just monotonous, where it's like you just forget that original spark that initiated the love that we've been on this journey with. And I think the space, and then going into traveling together, or going and to a an Airbnb, or like scheduling time to be outside of the world that you've created and to go kind of like just be together is super important for any relationship that's trying to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And this is something that we have, definitely known for a bit and prioritize in the ways that we can, and so much of this, like we don't really have role models as much. Like we have people on Instagram and different sources, but for the most part, like you and I, we're pretty young. We've been in this relationship for a long time, and like we've kind of just had to figure things out on our own. And, luckily, I think that we have a lot of opportunity in our lives to, like, whether it's going to like a concert or a festival or going to a different experience, like there's a lot of newness and moving parts and opportunities that we get to engage in every day to like keep keep the spark alive and keep the newness and make it fun and keep it interesting. Um, because a relationship constantly has to evolve the same way that we are constantly evolving as individuals. A relationship needs to too. Like if it's just based on what it was at the beginning, that's not going to last either. And so it's just this deepening of another layer deeper and exciting, another new exciting way to interact, and new jokes and new experiences, right? New memories. And yeah, and when you are so focused on building and creating wealth and being of service and these things, then like that, unless you make it a priority, it can kind of fall to the wasteland. And so I think that I'm really grateful for all the little opportunities that we have throughout our lives. But yeah, something bigger like this where you go travel together, or the Airbnb thing you mentioned that we haven't done as much recently, but something we've done for a few years now is, go rent an Airbnb in the mountains or somewhere in nature and go spend even just one night, 2 nights at most, and completely disconnect from our cell phones and just have that time where we're in a new environment and we are present with each other. Like it really is so simple, but it takes newness, and it takes really prioritizing that like one-on-one connection, because I see you every single day, right? From the moment I wake up, yeah, you go to work and come back, but it's like you're seeing your partner every single day. So then in order, I think, to keep things new and fun and interesting and change things up, it's like the environment is huge, um, the experience is huge, and the mindset too. And so anyway, Costa Rica was like an amplifier of that, because we had 10 days to ourselves in a different country, with like able to get around. We had this beautiful condo that my mom let us stay in right by the beach. And yeah, that in conjuncture with the book that I was reading and the information that I was absorbing, over the past month or so, I've been diving in a lot deeper into like feminine and masculine dynamics, especially in like union, reading David Data's work and Alison Armstrong and different podcasts and such. And I want to get into some of the bigger pieces that really allowed the shift to happen in a very powerful way. And so one of those that I think is just so valuable for everyone to know, and I'm just shocked that we're not taught these things earlier, but is that women have diffused awareness, is what she calls it, and men have single focus awareness. So what this means is basically men have, at any point in time, they have a single focus commitment, like something in their minds that they are working towards, right? Or that they are focused on for that moment. Even if it's like literally doing nothing, like that is still a commitment to doing nothing. Like in this moment, Austin, wants to rest, lay on the couch or scroll on social media, whatever, but he's committed to just that. And women, and so given that understanding, like men, if his commitment is to go chill on the couch for the next hour and he wants to go get comfy real quick, like he's not going to see the things along the way from the bedroom to the couch that might need to be picked up later, or some other things that might need to get done. It's just that single focus of like A to B. And for women, we have something called diffused awareness. And so we are constantly taking in our environment as a whole. We are aware of every little thing. And not just that we're aware of it, but it has an impact on our state of being. And this is why it can be challenging and this is not just men or women, it's masculine energy and feminine energy, which we all have both of, right? But you'll lean towards one or the other for the most part. But the feminine energy really, yeah, it is impacted by her environment and is just noticing all the things, whether it's people and how they're feeling, or whether it's things that need to be picked up, or to-do lists that hasn't been done. And so in order to have peace of mind, a lot of times the environment needs to be, in harmony in order for us to then relax and let go a little bit. And so those two perspectives and ways of walking through life are very different. Very different.
Yeah, it was really interesting to learn that, and I think that honestly that one understanding made it so much simpler because it's just at the root of everything, because all of our actions are directed based on this single, like for men, based on this single focus awareness. And now it's like, okay, like I can take action on things with the intention of like being of service or help, like knowing that your mind works this way. Like I can take action on certain things. Like I can direct that. It's like, okay, for 3 minutes, I'm going to go focus on this thing, or I'm going to do all these components to make sure that you can be fully at ease. And it's like, I asked you last night or yesterday, 2 days ago, but like, is there, it's like, you're like, yeah, we can just chill for the rest of the night. And I'm like, okay, is there anything else we need to get done before we can just chill? Like before you can, like, is there anything else that can help you more fully chill? And whether it's doing the dishes or vacuuming or picking up a couple of things, or running some errands or whatever it is that needs to get done in order for you to fully relax. And then when I do those things, I feel like I'm being of service. I feel like I'm helping you. I feel like I'm like, you're like, hey, I need this thing done, and then I do that thing, and I fulfill I accomplish something. I fulfill the need that you have, and I solve the problem that is unfolding, and then I feel like I have purpose. So it's like the more that instead of you being overwhelmed by the thousands of things that there are always to do around the house or in life, you asking me to do certain things has been really helpful and beneficial for like me feeling purposeful within the relationship and feeling like I'm actually being of service every single time that I do something, as opposed to like it being like this, you have to do this, or you holding it all on your plate and not asking for any help, and then feeling overwhelmed and overweighted, and then both of us are kind of like disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's been really cool to learn that that's how things work, because now it makes things so much simpler. Like it really just simplifies the way that we interact with each other and with the world that we're co-creating together.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of leads me to another massive point, which is that the masculine energy is like men are providers. Like at their core, you guys want to provide, you want to be of service. That is in your nature, right? You want to fix, you want to help, you want to offer your services in whatever way you can. And, a big part of this book is learning, as a woman, especially, in a woman and man relationship, it's like, how can we not get in the way of that and actually communicate in such a way that allows you to support, allows you to provide in little ways, because like you just said, that helps you feel fulfilled, that you want to help, right? But a lot of my programming is like passive aggressiveness, right? Because I'm afraid to speak my needs, or I don't want to ask for help, or I don't want to be a burden, or whatever the stories are that I've been working through for a long time. But, if I'm not communicating like, hey, I could really use some help with this, or, or whatnot, then, and I just tried to do it all myself, like you said, that's not only affecting me, but also you, because you're wanting to help, but you're not being directed and invited into that. And so, yeah, a huge understanding of like men are providers, and how can I as a woman like actually understand that and nurture that in a way that is beneficial for both. And a huge part of that, like I said, is communication. And so knowing that you want to provide, whereas in the past I would have been like, can you just clean up these things, or like, will you just clean up after yourself, or will you not leave the clothes like right next to the hamper and put them into the hamper? And then getting frustrated when you like forget or don't do it, or are annoyed that I ask you in that way, which is understandable, because the whole thing is like, women relate to men. This is something they say in the book, is like women, before they understand this information, they relate to men as if they are basically hairy women. Right? We expect you to act in the same way we do, for you to care about the dishes or cleaning up after yourself, or making things look pretty or whatever it is, right? And it's just not in your nature, and we don't want that, because that would completely destroy the polarity. The whole point, and this goes totally back to our biology, is that like the masculine was designed to hunt and get the food and protect and build the home, whatever, and the female was designed to nurture and to care for and to be be the energy of love, essentially, that makes a house a home. And I know there's a lot of controversy there and whatnot, and that's not something we're going to get into right now, but we're just looking at the energies here, and it really has been so helpful for me to be like, hey babe, like I said to you right before you came to Costa Rica, I had a whole list of things that I really wanted him to accomplish before coming, and some things I asked for to bring back to Costa Rica for me, because we had a friend coming to watch our dog, whatever. And so, I was like, how can I communicate this in a way that is going to be beneficial? And so I said, hey babe, like, here's a list of some things that I'd love for you to do, and like, it would provide me such peace of mind if like you could get this done before you leave. And you responded so well to that, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's going to provide her peace of mind, like, sure, let me schedule this in, and then I'll focus on that for an hour and just get it all done. Right? So how was that for you?
Yeah, no, it was super well received. And yeah, I mean, it's not about, for men, like, we need to know why something's important.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't care about the dishes unless I know that the dishes are clouding your entire awareness, and like that needs to get done in order for you to feel peace. So, like, I will care about all of the little things once I know that each of those is weighing on you and that it is something that I can do to help serve you being in a safer, less chaotic, more peaceful space. And so I think just understanding what how you feel about certain things and like why they're important to you makes me want to do them more. And as it, instead of it being this like assumption that like, oh, he should care about this, or he should, or how selfish or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, instead of all of that, like, invite me in to be of service to you. Cause like all I want to do is provide. All I want to do is help and to make an impact on our lives. And like, when there's a certain aspect of like, I need to be self-directed as well. Like there's certain things that I need to take responsibility for. But when you invite me in and you say, hey, this will bring me a lot of peace if you could just handle this. Instead of like, I think the original ways that like we would, um, that you would, it was less of an invitation and more of like an ask with like this, do you remember like, you would ask in this way that would make me feel immediately resentful about the way that it's just the way
Yeah,
that it's being
because
asked.
it's like okay, this was the cycle we were in for a little bit, is and it's hard because it would come in waves. Like when we're both feeling great, our communication's also way better. But when we're both stressed or focused on our own thing or just not feeling great, that's when our communication just kind of goes downhill, which I've noticed. But yeah, we were stuck in this pattern for a little bit where I wanted to ask for help, and I was, getting over my conditioning of like of not being a burden and blah blah blah. And so I wanted to ask for help, and I was trying to like work that muscle, but I didn't want to annoy you, or I didn't want to make it sound like it was like I didn't. I often was met with resistance, and so I would come at it like kind of not owning it and being like, hey, like if you have time, like could you do this? And it would come off a little bit like, hey, I know this is a huge deal for you, and like I've asked you a million times, but like, will you just fucking do it? That's probably what it sounded like. Um, and you were just annoyed that I was asking it that way. You were like, but also there was times when you were like, hey, I know what you're gonna ask me because you've asked me so many times. Like you don't need to tell me, I was already gonna do it. And then I'm like, okay, well, you never agreed to it. And so I just wanted to make sure,
Oh
because
yeah,
that
for
brings
sure.
me
I
peace of
I have
mind.
ownership in that too.
So there was just a lack of communication there, right? Of being like, I don't know how to communicate to you because I'm being met in this way, but you're meeting me in this way because you know that I'm showing up. It's just, yeah, it got confusing. And again, it's not even what you're saying, it's how you're saying it and the underlying intention. And so that has just been so much easier because I can be like, hey, like, and even knowing your single focus awareness, right? That you're not like me, where when you walk from the living room to the kitchen, you're going to see the things that are on the floor and just pick them up along the way, because that's how my mind works. You don't even see them. And so to be like, hey, when you've got time, or like give you a date, right? Like by the end of today, I would really love it if you could do these three things,
Hmm.
right? But then allow you to choose when that focus will happen for you, when that works for you, instead of just expecting you to do it right now and then getting frustrated about it and making up a story that you somehow don't care, or that you are disrespecting me or whatever it is.
Yeah, because I'm creating a hierarchy of prioritization in my mind of like what things are important and when. If someone's coming over at 5 p.m. and I need to have the house clean before then like okay, at 4 p.m. I'm going to start cleaning because that needs to be done. But like, yeah, if you're asking for these little details that are like, and I like the idea of giving me like that freedom. It's like, hey, I want you to get this done. I know you're going to be single focused awareness on 13 other things today between all the different times of day. But if you could squeeze this in, that would be great just before the end of the day. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I can prioritize and put it into my structure of what I think is important, and then create my reality and my day around that. And then not only do I get all the things I want to get done, but I also get the thing that you want me to get done. And then everyone wins.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're both happy. You're at peace. I feel like I've been of service and provided help to you and to our relationship. And yeah, and then the polarity is reinforced. And like that's the component with, with relationships in general. Like we just have to be so much more intentional about how we are constantly stepping into our king and our queen, and that masculine and feminine dynamic, because it is so easy for the roles to get flipped and for us to depolarize. And that's when the conflict starts to arise. That's when the miscommunication and the lack of connection starts to happen, is when we are not in our essence,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And so, yeah, it's been really cool to witness how just those subtle shifts, like that one understanding of single focused awareness and diffuse awareness, has really revolutionized the way that you and me both look at this relationship. And I feel so much more empowered and I feel so much more connected to you as a result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another part of that is, as the feminine, because this book was specifically written so that like the feminine can understand the masculine and therefore have a more um a more empowered relationship, a better relationship. And so a big part of that too is for the feminine not to constantly criticize and complain and nitpick and call things out, because again, it's like I only do that when I look at you as like basically expecting you to operate as a woman, right? As I would. Um, and that was a big thing that I got to take responsibility over. And, it happens so unconsciously because it's like, oh, especially if I'm stressed or I'm annoyed or whatnot, then I just will project and find the things that you're not doing up to par in my head, and, and just start like, yeah, criticizing and just pointing out little things. And it seems insignificant in the moment, but they do add up and they cause the masculine to kind of like deflate, instead of like pumping you up and being like noticing the things that you have done well, and that I see and I notice, because I do notice all of it, but I'm choosing which one to focus on, right? And so then therefore it's actually making it worse, because wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. And so just being able to like really pull out the best qualities in both. And it doesn't mean you completely ignore the things that like you see that you want to help with, but really it's just about like, where is our focus, and are we as the opposite partner and the spouse really committed to empowering our spouse and helping them rise, knowing that it benefits both, because we feed off of each other. We are always parallel in our evolution. um, and Yeah, and really something that they point out too in the book is like asking like, what if there's a good reason for this, right? Especially for women out there, whether it's with a relationship with your brother, your dad, or a friend, or a coworker, or boss, or anyone. It's again, it's when we expect them to do things the way that we would, that then we create stories about why they don't care about us, or why we're not lovable, or why they're jerks, or why they're ignorant, or why they're lazy, and really starting to recognize like, what if there's actually a good reason for this? Like, what if men just operate completely differently and the way that they achieve certain goals and get through life is just different than ours? And yeah, it just completely shifted my perspective. And um yeah, and I'll pause there for a second. I want to talk about self-responsibility in a moment, but
Yeah, no, I would say that the shifting away from criticism and complaints is super helpful for me because I like I get it. I understand, but the moment that a man can't provide or solve a problem that is being perceived is the moment that I feel disempowered. And like no matter how much, I do well in all these other areas, if it's the complaints and the criticisms come out as the main areas of focus, so they expand, and then yeah, like you said, I feel deflated, and I feel like I'm not able to provide, and that doesn't help me help you because I'm not being pumped up, and so I'm not pumping you up, and like that positive feedback loop is
mm-hmm.
it becomes a negative feedback loop. And so I'm really proud of you for like shifting and taking more ownership and responsibility of that, and then empowering me through being more, yeah, just like walking up and putting your hands on me and telling me thank you for doing the dishes, and like being so much more focused on the places where I am providing. And then that makes me more excited about wanting to provide. And then all of those little things, those little components that maybe would have been amplified before, are now going to start being things that maybe I want to take care of
Yeah.
because I'm empowered and I'm excited. And so, yeah, it's been really cool to witness that dynamic shift as well. And it's, yeah. And like, and there's a whole other, side of, we'll talk about self-responsibility, but there's a whole other side on my part where, I'm I'm being asked to step into the next best version of me too. And I'm being asked to, like, as you're embodying more of this queen energy, this divine feminine dynamic, this persona, I am being called forward into my king, and I'm being called forward into wanting to, be a provider and create financial stability, and be emotionally supportive and hold you through, the turbulence of life and the chaos. And it's more evolutionary than it is like a choice. It's like you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, and then I'm being called into this version of me that, I just forget it exists, because as you're in your little girl and I'm in my little boy, which happens, like it's happened very consistently over the last several years as we've been trying to evolve and work through all these things. Those pieces pull pieces of that immature variation out of us,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of and then they amplify it and allow that to be the centerpiece, where it's like, once we just shift and evolve a little bit, then we're able to embody this new presence and this new way of being.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only in the adolescent phase of that too. Like we talked
Yeah.
about, I think there's like there's the king, but then before that's the prince. And it's like, I feel like the prince to king transition, I think I tried to make that jump all the way to king ASAP, because I was like, oh, this needs to happen. And I'm like, oh, there's actually a stage between this where like I am a little bit in the adolescent phase, but also moving into this, like, as you call me forward, I'm moving through this prince phase and like out of the immaturity phase. And 30 for me, for both of us, I think feels like the moment where we're really choosing this radical self responsibility and choosing to step into our power, because and to mature, because it's time. I think the last few years has been a really beautiful
Mm-hmm.
experience in play, and a little bit of immaturity and fun, and making choices that you know that are maybe not as much the adult choices, but were the choices that like our hearts really wanted and desired. And now it's like, okay, you know what? We've had our fun. It's been a really good time, and now it's time to step into what we're truly capable of. And there's, layers and layers and layers to go deeper through this next phase, which I'm really excited to go through in the next decade.
Yeah, it's a constant evolution, and it's never like a full let go of one and step into the other. I think there's so much gray area where you're just like back and forth. And especially when you're triggered again, you go back into like old wounds and old patterns that emerged when you were younger. And so it's like, you know, that's really where, yeah, where the evolution happens of like more and more stepping into like the more higher self version of us, if you will. But to back up a little bit, it's really has been really beautiful to see how much you've stepped up just from me shifting my energy, and this is something that I really want to point out, because when we talk about self responsibility, especially in relationships, but this goes for every area of your life, so much of our focus has been like change the other person and then I'll be happy, or then I'll be kinder, and then I'll be better, right? If he does this differently, then I will X, or when I have money, then I'll be happy, or when I have the job. Like it's always dependent on the external changing first in order for us then to shift the way that we show up and the way that we feel. And that is where I think we have the whole equation backwards. And that's why it feels so hard, because we don't have control of anything outside of ourselves. And we forget that the way that we're showing up is having a huge influence on what we experience externally, and especially in relationship. And so, if I want to sit there and find all the reasons why you're not showing up 100% the way I need you to in order to feel XYZ, like I could be in that story forever and it can seem super valid and I can find all the reasons why I'm right, but that doesn't help me at all. That's just making things worse. Instead, if I can look at like, okay, well, what is my responsibility in this? Like, how do I play a role in this? Right. And it just doesn't completely let the other person off the hook. It's just about recognizing that you are the main character of the story. Why did you attract this? Like, how are you continuing to feed this, right? Dynamic that is a feedback loop. And so the start of it has been our relationship, right? Like me taking radical responsibility over like, hey, all the things that I'm noticing and pointing out that I think need to be changed or need to be improved, how can I use that as a mirror and look really honestly back into my own eyes and be like, well, how are you playing a role in this? And that takes a bigger human being to really be like, oh yeah, like I have been complaining more. I have been criticizing things that I see as wrong, instead of like really appreciating you. And also recognizing that like men play for points is something they talk about, right? Like you want to be acknowledged, you want to be appreciated for the things that that I love and that I'm seeing and I'm thanking you for. And it naturally makes you want to do more. Like that's obvious. That's how humans operate, right? Same as like a dog. If you give him treats, he's
Mm-hmm.
gonna want to do whatever. Um, so
Call me a
self
dog.
I mean,
A
actually,
golden retriever.
she, I'm pretty sure she mentioned in an episode about, she's like, yeah, women love to say like men are dogs. And she's like, yeah, they're super loyal. They're obedient. They love you every time you come home. Like she just flipped it completely. And I thought that was really funny. It's all perspective. But yeah, I think that the self responsibility that I've stepped into even deeper, right, has just been an evolution of this, but there's been definitely a big step over the last month, has also translated to more responsibility in every other area of my life, especially with the new year that just, we're just stepped into. I really took some time to recognize, okay, where am I still in victimhood, right? In the subtle ways, even though I've put in so much work and come so far, like I'm still in victimhood in some areas, feeling bad for myself, feeling sorry for myself, or feeling like life's just too hard. And like there's certain areas that are just too much of a struggle. And instead, it's like, how can I regulate my system, really slow down, focus on myself, and then recognize like, where do I get to take ownership of this? Like, how do I want to show up, and where can I really step into from a place of love, not from a place of like, you know, punishment or hatred, because I think that that can be an energy that some people like push themselves to do things with. That doesn't work either. But just from a place of like, hey, it's okay that you're here, and like you are so much more powerful than this. Like if you really want something, like you can do this, but like here's the steps that need to happen. Like here are the changes that you get to make, and only you get to make those.
Yeah. I mean, the whole mirror aspect, it's like all of reality is a mirror for us to better understand ourselves. And whatever we're experiencing externally is just a reflection of what's going on internally and where we may or may not be showing up in our own worlds. And so being able to look in the mirror individually is not just for you, it's for your relationship, and it's for the way that you interact with the world around you. Because it's like what the way that you look at the world changes. What was it? The If you change the way that you look at the world that you look at changes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, or something like that. But basically, yeah, it's like everything externally is happening because it's a genuine reflection of what's going on inside. And so taking radical responsibility for our own lives is one of the most important things we can do, because it's all us, it's all me. I'm the main character of the story. Everything going on out there is a reflection of what's going on in here. And if I choose differently, if I make different choices, if I choose to see the world in a different way, if I choose to step into my power instead of running away from it, like, I'm going to see those shifts manifest in the world around me, and I'm going to watch those changes unfold. And it might not be in real time. Some of these things take, like, shifts in the external reality, often are lagging indicators of what we've done internally. And so you might have a big shift, a huge emotional, transformation, and then it might take months and months for that thing to actually, like, appear to you. But I can say that as far as mirrors go, a relationship is the perfect mirror for yourself. And so, like, she is me. I am a reflection of her. She's a reflection of me. And so, like, the moment that she starts, or that I start embodying different kinds of energy, we start getting different outputs. We start getting different results. The way that I start showing up, or I choose to react or to respond rather than react in a situation, causes her nervous system to make a shift that maybe hasn't happened before and puts her in a different state. And then we really do kind of see in real time these changes happening and unfolding, like, very quickly. And so, as much as the external reality can be a lagging indicator, I think that a relationship can be a very astute
Mm-hmm.
um, change simulator, like that. Like, hey, if you change your energy around this thing, your partner immediately feels that and shifts their energy as well. And then you can have real time changes that can be made in evolutions. And it's been a journey of, and still learning how to step into our power and to actually take full responsibility, like radical responsibility, this ownership thing. It's like, it's everything. I think it's the
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's victim and then there's creator consciousness. There's two. Like, you can't really exist in the middle. And I think that we're being polarized as a species right now to start choosing to be the creators of our own worlds, or to fall into this victimhood. But, like, instead of this gray area where you can kind of be in the middle, I think that we're kind of moving toward this space where you're being forced to choose. And, we're both choosing to be creators, and we're both choosing to be powerful. Like, when we say the word queen or king, like, that's not said lightly. Like, we are really choosing and trying to step into and embody these archetypes, because they are core to our nature and, like, what we're capable of. And there is a lack of in this world, like she said, we don't have any role models really. Like, there's a lack of maturation that happens because there are no rites of passage or initiation rituals that they used to have back in the day. Like, I think that in other tribes they would have, the boy, they would strap him to an anthill, and, like, he's 13 years old, and, like, they're like, hey, you have to survive here for 10 minutes and, like, be
That's so
okay.
aggressive.
So aggressive, for sure.
Or like
But
going to hunt
yeah,
or
or going on
something.
a hunt or whatever. Yes, but all we have in society these days are what we call, like, pseudo initiations, where there aren't really these opportunities for, like, these big maturation jumps, where it's like, hey, you were a boy and now
Mm-hmm.
you're a man. And because we don't have those things, we're kind of, like, winging it, and we're walking blindly through the world trying to learn on our own. But we don't have role models, and we don't have systems, and we don't have rituals and initiations and rites of passage. And because of that, it's you have all of these pseudo initiations, so you make these small leaps, but you never make this big jump in consciousness that happens when you have this like big this big moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, it's embedded into our DNA to have those things happen. And, sometimes it takes a big life event, like a parent passing or things like that, where, like, life will be the ritual, or the rite of passage. But in the world of convenience and comfort that we currently live in, like we don't really have those. And so it's important for us, as we continue to move forward, as we're stepping into this, these archetypes and becoming the best versions of ourselves, that we really truly show up for one another and create those rituals and those significations, those milestones where we can actually make these consciousness leaps happen in real time, and we can actually experience them and celebrate them so that we can move to the next level.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And yeah, I mean, it goes back to like when we lived in tribes and community was more of a focus and such, like where we had elders and,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. And now it's kind of, we're more in this like modern hyper independence world where you just go down the timeline that you're expected to go down, but there's never really that like ushering into the next stage of your evolution as a woman or a man where you get to follow in the footsteps of those that you have been learning from, and really be taught and pass down the knowledge and the wisdom and all that, and so it's understandable why I think there's been a slowing down of like our maturity, I would say, maybe, or just so more of like a confusion. You kind of have to go figure it out on your own or stumble into it, or life just hits you in the face. Like there's just less of a process that's clear. And so I'm really proud of us for everything we've discovered on our own, and still humble enough to say that like we are still very much at the beginning of this
Mm-hmm.
journey, but also like comparatively, pretty far along for our age and everything that we've experienced. And so it's nice to come on and just be really open about everything that we're learning and we go through. And it's, although our relationship is really beautiful and so healthy, like, yeah, there's still areas that we constantly get to work on and improve, because there's no limit to how good it can get, you know and as we continue to evolve as human beings, which we're always changing, like our relationship's never going to stop evolving with us too. And so it's this like entity that's created based on how both of us are showing up. And really, as long as we're both willing to be responsible for our energy, our action, our communication, just how we're showing up every single moment, we don't have to worry so much about the other person. It's not up to us. We don't have to control it all, right? And there's nothing to fix, maybe. Like maybe it's just a matter of you, each of you, taking a little bit more ownership and choosing to step into the person that you can be, and being more vulnerable and open and honest. So yeah, we were excited to share kind of the changes we've been through in the past few months. And um, yeah, it's just been such a noticeable difference since we got back from Costa Rica. There's been so much more, like from the outside looking in, it probably doesn't look like anything has changed, but when you're in it, you just notice the subtleties that are so different but make all the difference, or slightly different but make a huge difference in how we feel and interact with each other. And just there's been this like new like giddy love and like excitement and like dates and just, yeah, I'm really grateful for it, and I'm excited that we get to share a little bit about our journey.
Yeah, and speaking of dates, I think that it's super important for any, which we've never done because we've spent so much. We're like spending so much time together for a decade long. Like we're always around each other, and yeah, we do dates and we do these things. But I think that scheduling in time for specifically for each other, and we haven't been super on it, but like to take Tuesday nights and to make that our date night, and
Mm-hmm.
like to start putting energy toward that, I think is going to be super important, especially this next year, in terms of prioritizing our relationship and helping to keep that polarity alive so we can go experience little fractals of what we experienced in Costa Rica, and to have time intentionally set aside for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been really beautiful to witness the shifts and changes that we've been able to make together, and how we've been able to bring that Costa Rica energy back with us and to allow it to proliferate through the lives that we are creating together, and to watch you grow and to watch me grow, and then to have the way that you're showing up inspire me to show up in a certain way, and like And even last night and this morning, like me getting on my laptop and like I'm like inspired and creative and like spending my time and energy doing things that like are lighting me up and getting me excited about life. And then when I do that, then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do my thing. And it's it's all about a positive feedback loop, and it's all about showing up every single day. And like that's what love is. That's what a relationship is like waking up every single morning and choosing the person across from you and choosing ownership of your place in the relationship and your reflection in the mirror, and being willing to step into, the next best version of yourself. Whether in just getting, 0.5% or 1% better every day compounds over time. And if we're willing to make that leap and take that jump and do it every single morning, every single day with the partner that we're choosing to be with, like those returns become exponential.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we're having these conversations and doing these podcasts is because we want to share more of this with the world. Like everyone has different skill sets and different things that they build over time. And like, to me, one of the things I'm most proud of is our relationship and what we built over a decade. Like I can't say I've spent a decade on anything in my life aside from this relationship. And to the fact that it just keeps getting better, the fact that we can just fall more deeply in love, the fact that we can just keep choosing to grow and expand and inspire each other in any moment, is it's like the most rewarding thing ever. And it just continues to compound and to deepen and to mature. And this is like, I feel like it's like our duty to share our relationship with the world, because most things in the world are fleeting and they are short and short lived. And especially relationships, people jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, dating and this and that, and can't, and it's always these short, like dopamine infused experiences that are fleeting and that don't actually provide any content or emotional fulfillment between the people that are involved in them. And so yeah, I really deeply want to share more of what we're doing and what we're building, because I think that I want to share with people that like true love is real, and that I don't think that there is any one specific person for any one person, but it's the two people who choose to wake up every day and choose each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that your true love, that your soulmate is the two people who are willing to put in the work and to show up for each other every single day and to love each other more deeply and to forgive and to move forward and to take steps together on this journey as we continue to evolve into the best versions of ourselves. And as long as we are continuously stepping into that with power and purpose, and we're supporting each other and empowering each other to do the same individually in our relationship, then the sky's the limit, and we can keep building and building and building. And there is no bottom to the depth of love and potential that we are capable of creating together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The choice. That really is it. It's like you're making a choice every single moment to view someone through your lens of perception that is inadequate, never enough, not good, whatever. And you can likewise make a choice in every moment to choose to see them in the highest good, in the highest light, and choose to see yourself in that too. And really, it's the choices we make every single day, even if they have become unconscious and automated, that ultimately dictate how we experience life, how we show up, and also in return what we experience on the other side. And so it's a continuous evolution and a journey, but it's funny because I'll end it on this, but something Alison Armstrong says too is that for a woman, all you need to do as a man is make her feel safe and make her feel loved, really. And I think that in many ways that goes for all humans and for ourselves, right? As long as we continue to do that for ourselves and choose love, choose a perception of love, choose an energy of love, yeah, there's no end to how deep a relationship can go, how safe you can feel, how much you can evolve, and what you can create together. It's really, that's what's so exciting to me, is like there is no end to this. And that's so exciting because it just makes me want to keep learning more and keep pouring more into this because it benefits everyone involved. And so, yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for listening, and we're excited to keep sharing every so often when we're in a new stage. Um, yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Instagram. I'll link that all in the show notes below. But other than that, we hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We love you guys.
Love you.